What's up, guys? Welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name is Chris Lynn, and today I have Mark Chu with me, a certified CPA. And in this episode, we're going to go over 5 ways to stop worrying as a reseller about your taxes and start living. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself? Where do you live? What do you do?
Yeah, hi, Mark, too. I'm a CPA specializing in e-commerce. So all my clients are not, most of my clients sell on eBay, Amazon, Poshmark, any platform. And I am based in Utah. And I also have a small Amazon business that I spend a few hours on each month. So I think it's a really cool community, and I'm happy to be here and share some tips.
And this is awesome because having an actual reseller who's is a CPA as well really helps understand your business and tailor fit whatever your tax needs are to your specific situation. So before we get started, this is a 3-part series on reseller taxes, and they're sponsored by Mark's new reseller tax course. There's a link in the description below. It's a no-brainer for anyone serious about starting a reseller business. And Mark is actually having a launch sale. So if you guys are watching this in the month of January, there's already a special discounted price. You can click on the affiliate link below. And if not, you're watching this after January, you can use code Daily Refinement for an additional sale. But let's get into tip number 1, which is do not fear accounting or taxes. It's nothing to be afraid of. Mark wanted to start it off with just saying you tend to fear what you don't understand. So don't overthink it, Mark. How do people get started if they haven't done anything?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I tell people is just to take a deep breath. Like, don't worry about it. It's not as bad as you think. Like, I just talked to somebody 1 or 2 days ago, and they were telling me on the phone, they had received a letter from the IRS, and the guy told me, I'm literally having a nervous breakdown right now. And just by what he told me, I could tell that he didn't owe the money that they said that he owed. So there really is a lot of power in just getting a little bit of education, because most of the time you'll see that it's not nearly as bad as you think. Um, we tend to overthink that kind of stuff, and anytime we get a letter that says IRS on it, it's just immediately going to send us into a panic. But it shouldn't, and it doesn't have to. There's usually a simple solution for all that stuff.
Yeah, and the more educated you are on the subject, just the more you can use that energy for something else. I think that was the best way for me to approach it is I'm wasting all this energy thinking about it, keeping track. Once you have a system put in place, you can focus on the stuff that you like to do. You only really need to set it up one time. It's important to just understand a procedure and a process, and then you can be set. And I think it also takes a load off of your significant others, friends and family who are helping you out. Once they sort of have a clear idea, they'll know how they fit into the picture and they can help support you as well. So number 2, this or part of this section is breaking it up into manageable chunks. So how do you approach this? Do you break it down to literally the very next step you can take, or how do you approach this?
I mean, it just depends whatever your issue is. So, a lot of times a new reseller isn't really aware of the fact that they have to pay taxes on all this stuff that they're selling. So then they'll get
Hmm.
to the end of the year, or they'll get a letter or a 1099 from PayPal or something, and they'll say, "Oh shoot, I haven't kept track of anything. That's so overwhelming." And that's when I say, just take a step back, look at a big picture, and think, okay, what am I trying to do? And you're just trying to report your profit on your tax return. So that doesn't seem that complicated. So then it's like, okay, well, what does my profit consist of? So it's your sales minus your inventory, your cost of goods sold minus your other expenses. So just take each one of those items piece by piece, and before you know it, you can combine them, and you'll have your a picture of your the prior year's activity. The sales you can get from your platform reports, the inventory information you can get from receipts or maybe bank statements. So you just kind of go through systematically like that, break it up, and it simplifies things a lot.
So something that Mark had mentioned before the call, which is really key, is that when you start to educate yourself, you'll feel better about it and then not be as overwhelmed. And there's a lot of free resources. You can go online to Intuit and H&R Block have excellent articles. There are Facebook groups. Mark, why don't you tell people about your group?
I have a Facebook group called Accounting for Online Sellers. So there's a few CPAs in there and a few professionals, people with experience who've been doing it for a while, and you can get some good answers in there too.
And we both disagree that all information on social media is wrong or incorrect. That's just not the case. There's plenty of CPAs and actual respectable people in their industry online giving away free information, like Mark.
Yeah, and I follow a couple other CPAs who are giving out all sorts of good info. So, when somebody says, you can't trust what you hear on social media, go hire a CPA. There's some truth to that, but there's also some some non-truth to that.
Fair enough. So let's move on to the key number 2, which is separating business from personal. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so this is one of the first tips that I'll give somebody if they're asking me for advice for just starting out. It's you want to make sure that you have a solid foundation to build on, and this is one of the best things you can do to strengthen that foundation. Because if you're trying to if you're trying to analyze your profitability or do your taxes, it just becomes so much more challenging when your business activity, and by that I mean your business transactions, are mixed in with your personal transactions. It just makes it really messy. It increases the likelihood of making an error on your tax return, of making a decision on bad information. So um, that's one of the first places I would start.
Okay. Number 3, keep clean records.
Yeah, this sort of goes back to separating your business from your personal. I mean, you want to get a separate bank account, and then a further step to keep those records clean would be to connect your bank to some type of bookkeeping software, whether that be QuickBooks or Zero or a free one like Wave Accounting. A lot of people use GoDaddy Bookkeeping. There's so many programs out there you can use to maintain a set of clean records. And you could use a spreadsheet too. You don't have to pay for a bookkeeping software. If you feel comfortable with a spreadsheet, you can use that. If you feel comfortable with a pen and paper, you can use that. You just want to make sure that you have a system that works for you, that's going to allow you to make decisions to grow your business and allow you to optimize your taxes.
So just another plug for Mark's course. All this information plus a lot more information is in his course. You're going to really feel a sense of peace once you kind of get an idea of how this all works. It's really important to really take this seriously, guys. And I think it's important. One of my favorite sayings is that clear is better than big. You don't need a very big resale business if you understand exactly how much money you're making. Because if you understand, you can grow it to any size. But if you don't understand, I think a lot of resellers sometimes try to outgrow not knowing. Like if I'm just big enough, I don't have to worry about it. It doesn't always work that way though.
Yeah, not a great strategy.
So on second part of the keeping clean records is the profitability. I think Mark put in our notes that knowing your numbers leads to better insights, better decision making, and action, which is very true. You can easily cut categories that are not working. You can reduce unnecessary expenses, and at the end of the day, more money in your bottom line.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I like to highlight, because a lot of new business owners have the thought that I just need to keep track. I need to do my bookkeeping for tax purposes, so the IRS doesn't get on my case, so they can stay happy. Um, but it's really goes way beyond that, because yes, you want to do your taxes accurately, but you want to keep records so that you can have that insight into your profitability. Because once you can see that on at least a monthly basis, like you were just saying, you have the insights to make those decisions um, that are going to take your business to the next step or the next
And
level.
absolutely, in the Pareto principle applies to reselling. The stuff that's selling is going to continue selling. And the stuff that doesn't, you need to get rid of right away. If you're not keeping track, you will not know where to put your energy into. And you'll find that the most successful resellers usually sell in one category or less. And they do things the same way just so that it streamlines. There's so many products and so many people. You can just do one thing and make enough money to support yourself. You don't need to diversify and sell 20 different ways on 20 different platforms. It's not necessary. There are plenty of people who do well selling one type of thing on one platform. So don't overwhelm yourself. And again, keeping track of your profit is huge. So number 4 is tracking inventory and cost of goods sold with a spreadsheet. So we wanted to simplify this instead of including every single possible variable. Mark, I think you simplified it into just 5 main things to keep track of.
Yeah, so it can become tedious to try and track your inventory within a bookkeeping software. So a lot of resellers find that what they do starting out is to use some type of bookkeeping software for everything except for their inventory. So your inventory, you'll keep track of that detail in a spreadsheet. And to have an accurate cost of goods sold, you just have to track 5 basic things, which include like the item description, the purchase date, the purchase cost, the sale date, and the sale price. Because historically, when the requirement has been to deduct that inventory when you sell it. So when you're tracking all those things, that'll help you keep track of what your cost of goods sold is for that month.
Awesome. So I think that also you can start small and then add more variables to it instead of thinking of every possible thing to keep track of, like date, location, how much you paid. Like, I mean, how much you paid for it, you need to know, but like what time of day. Some people's spreadsheets have hundreds of columns, and I'm a little bit guilty of that also. Mark has a free spreadsheet available. I have a paid one that's like tons of it's like 20 different columns. And then what I recommend is this is just get rid of columns that you don't keep track of to just narrow it down to the basic. I'll link those in the description below, but you don't need to have it be too complicated. um, so now number 5, this is really key, and this is to understand the different types of taxes. Mark, there's is this 5 different types of taxes that you have to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, is
Mhm.
especially when you start doing something on the side like reselling, something that comes as a surprise to a lot of people is self-employment tax. When you are self-employed, you have to pay basically 15% of your profit, and that's just what happens when you're self-employed. So
Mhm.
it's it takes the place of your payroll, some of your payroll taxes when you're a W-2 employee, but your employer is paying an equal amount on your behalf. So when you become self-employed, you have to pay both portions. So it's sort of like you're paying double. So if you have a $1,000 profit, that's basically $150 tax for that self-employment tax. And that's totally separate from your regular federal income tax or your state income tax. Uh, um,
Yeah.
if we're familiar with any taxes, it's income tax. Sometimes people confuse income tax with sales tax, which
Mhm.
is a whole other thing.
Mhm.
So you just want to make sure if you're talking to your CPA about quarterly taxes that you're both on the same page. Like you're not talking about sales tax, but you're talking about income tax.
That's right. Know the different types of taxes. So federal self-employment tax, you have income tax, both state and federal, and then also sales tax, state and local. And a lot of the platforms are collecting that for us
Right.
as well. So guys, this is a kind of a lot to digest. So we've broken this down into 3 separate parts. And again, we want you to take a deep breath. Don't freak out. It's not as complicated as it sounds. There's plenty of free help and organized help. Mark's course is available in the description below. Mark, where's the best place for people to find you online?
My website is notyourdadscpa.com, or you can follow me on Instagram. It's at notyourdadscpa. That's where I'm the most active lately.
And you can also find Mark in his Facebook group. And I'll see you guys on part 2. Until next time, make progress daily.